IHRA Championship drag racing, only one category of competition showcases machines as they came from the factories in Detroit. Stock Eliminator is a division filled with some of the greatest factory-produced muscle cars in the history of automotive racing. But indeed, this class also showcases some of the more bizarre combinations of vehicles you'll ever see. Just about every brand, body style, and even type of engine is represented. But there are a few that are definitely more unusual than others. Case in point, Randall Campbell's incredible Kentucky-based Chevy station wagon, a 3,000-pound 1966 Nova wagon. It doesn't have some big V8 engine under the hood. It's a 194 cubic inch straight six-cylinder engine. This may be one of the slowest cars as far as actual elapsed time and speed are concerned on the quarter mile, but believe it or not, this machine is a multi-time national event winner. Randy Campbell has made a serious charge for the World Championship on several occasions. One of the neatest things about this race car is not only the fact that it's a true grocery getter, something you might think your family would drive rather than a racer, but indeed this man has made this car into a rolling billboard for sponsorships that a lot of people wouldn't think he could pick up unless you were driving a Nitro Funny car. There's a lot of ingenuity into tuning this car and campaigning it. Randy, what made you decide to run a six-cylinder Chevy station wagon in this class? There's got to be a reason.
Yeah, it's the only car I can afford to run. I can't afford anything else. I can't afford to go fast.
But even though you don't have that much money involved in this machine as opposed to a super stock or a modified car, you're still capable of winning national events. You've done it before.
Well, we just try hard. We just give it our best shot. Everywhere we go, we give it all.
In this class, you're not allowed to really do anything different than what the way the car came from the factory. What do you do to tune this thing to make it run in 90 miles an hour in the quarter mile?
It's just got to be blueprinted and index plugs. We got to do everything we can. Little things makes all the difference. Without
changing it from its stock configuration?
Right, it's got to be stock.
Now, as far as the sponsors that you've put together, that pretty much allows you to travel, but some of them are pretty interesting. The potato chip sponsor, for interesting, how did that come about?
Well, I work with the boy. He's got a business on the side, and he just picked me up. He helps me all he can, and we appreciate anything we can get from anybody.
You've got a potato chip sponsor, a flea market sponsor, a construction company, even a hotel that gives you rooms at the races. How do you approach a sponsor with this race car?
Well, you just give it your best shot if you get the opportunity. Just take the opportunity to talk with them about it, get it explained to you. You explain it to them as good as you can, that you can advertise for them, and that you'll be glad to, and that you help them any way you can. Send people to the rooms, whatever.
And it helps a lot when the car's in the winner's circle too, right?
It helps a whole lot. It makes all the difference.
These machines may not represent the largest investment in the world, but it is still a mechanical marvel that this car runs 90 miles per hour in the quarter mile with this little six-cylinder power plant. But the one thing that's nice about Stock Eliminator is not only are the cars the stars, it has some pretty impressive personalities as well. You may not believe it, but you're looking at the driver that is currently ranked #2 in the World Championship in Stock Eliminator. Cleo Chandler, one of the most amazing individuals in all of motorsports, is one of IHRA's true superstars. In a sport where you're supposedly washed up by the time that you're 50, Cleo Chandler is a simply incredible individual. Racing on IHRA's National Championship Tour for the last 7 years with this machine, the Mom's Toy 1964 Chevy Malibu in the Stock Eliminator ranks, Cleo Chandler has always been competitive, but not nearly as much so as she was 1 week before the Springnationals when she won a World Championship Series event in Greer, South Carolina. That win made Cleo Chandler, at 74 years old, the oldest winner in the history of motorsports. Cleo, you had to be absolutely thrilled with your performance at Greer. It had to be a great moment for you.
It was the greatest moment I've ever had.
Now, you've been in the final round before as far as runners-up, and you've done extremely well in the years that you've raced, but this one was better because you had to run some of the toughest drivers in IHRA at this one.
Yes, and I was real thrilled to be #1.
Does it mean, I know that age doesn't mean that much to you. You're out here enjoying what you do, and you've always enjoyed racing, but does it mean anything to you to be the oldest person ever to win a major racing title?
No, it's just being myself, I guess. Just doing whatever comes natural, and drag racing I do love.
And the folks do love her. Every time Cleo comes out, pops that Chevy into gear and runs it down the quarter mile. Talk about your little old lady from Pasadena. Cleo's a classic. Ted, how about the sportsman results?
Well, in other sportsman results, top sportsman was won by Ron Miller. Factory modified went to Timmy Freeman. And Floyd Cheek, former IHRA world champion, won quick rod. Super rod went to Kevin Beach. Mark Marcinowski, hot rod, modified world champion, and Pito picked up that trophy. In Super Stock, it was Ham Smith. The Stock Eliminator winner, that's Cleo's class, was Earl Smith.
And speaking of trophies, don't forget you can win a totally restored 57 Chevy Bel Air from Dan Chuck Manufacturing in California. Just look for the IHRA race word near the end of the show. Send it to Box 3029, Bristol, Tennessee 37625. Stay tuned. Coming up later in our show, it's the IHRA secret word. One correct answer per family, per show, and you could win that beautiful 57 Chevy. We'll be back to Bristol. Welcome back to the IHRA Mountain Empire Chevy Dealers Spring Nationals in Bristol, Tennessee, where we're ready for semifinal action in pro stock.
What a matchup this is. Doug Kirk against Harold Denton. The ETs in the most previous round would indicate we're in for a real drag race here. Kirk won the last round with a 757, 184. Denton won the last round with a 758, 185.
And remember, Kirk's the guy who knocked off Boris Johnson, who in turn beat our top qualifier, Tim Neighbors. Kirk in the red car to the left. On the right is Harold Denton. Good, clean start. Kirk opens up a big lead. Must be a problem with Denton's car. He's way off.
Shut down. Yes, he has. I think they had some oil in that lane, and Denton was trying to drive around it. Let's take another look, and I think we'll see the front end go down on Denton's car right there. The front end dips down as he lifts the throttle, and he just literally shut the car down and coasted on through, Bob.
And so the fairy tale continues for Doug Kirk, who has earned his way to the finals. Let's see who he'll meet there. Our next matchup will be Tommy Mooney and Ed Dixon. Dixon in the white Thunderbird, Mooney in this beautiful blue and white Pontiac Trans Am.
Well, another very close match here. Mooney went a 748, 195. Dixon ran a 750, 193. Good race coming up.
Mooney gets a terrible start. Dixon just runs away from him, but now Dixon has trouble and Mooney drives around.
Anything can happen in drag racing. Tommy Mooney, sometimes it takes a little bit of luck, a 751.
Boy, Mooney absolutely asleep at that start, but he also pulls off the quicker ET, so he'll have lane choice in the final against Doug Kirk.
Here in the Chuck Edgel's pit area, the funny car crew, and I stress the funny car crew, has already started to button up a motor that showed no signs of wear or any problems after that first round victory. But remember, this is a two-car team, and there's a lot more action going on. Down here is the Top Fuel dragster team for Paul Smith's crew. They're thrashing, and they did find a problem. In fact, it's a piston problem that most teams wish they had. Paul Smith says he's been running this piston in this race car for about 150 runs. It was in there so long that the skirt on the side of the piston broke from wear. It's one of the first times they've ever had to tear the engine down other than for basic maintenance. But right now, there are at least a dozen people running back and forth at this operation, trying to get two different cars ready for an assault on the semifinals that hopefully will find these two cars in the finals. We'll have to wait and see if all the work's worth it. Back to you, gentlemen.
All right, thank you, Brett. We're going to find out right now as we move to semifinal action in Top Fuel, where Paul Smith will have that rebuild engine as he goes in against John Kerry.
Smith turned in a 541 in the quarterfinal round. John Kerry only ran an I-13. Remember, he went up in smoke off the line, so we really don't know what Kerry's capable of, and neither does he.
Well, we do know he's capable of knocking off the points leader. He did that to Richard Holcomb in the first round. There's a look at the business end of Kerry's car. You see the wheelie bars and the parachutes and the motor capable of 4,000 horsepower.
Those wheelie bars are very significant because they've been added since Don Garlett started a couple years ago with the wheel stands. Now they're starting to have a lot of problems with these top fuelers climbing up in the air. Kerry hopes that maybe the wheelie bars will solve that.
Crewmen brushing down the tires, want those slicks as clean as possible. There is the engine at work. And they are away. Great start of the right lane. Looks like Smith has bad tire hazing problems. Kerry easily.
Smith up in smoke. Kerry a 540, not a real impressive win, and you can see that smoking started before he ever got off the end of the pad. Kerry an easy victory.
You're probably just as surprised as anybody that Paul Smith smoked the tires on that one, but 540, especially in the left lane at this track, is excellent.
Yes, you know, we had a little problem on the first run. We lost a port pump we didn't know about, and we just changed the port pump. We just barely made it too long. They had Paul Waiters on it. You know, if it wasn't for the crew and the people we have around, this wouldn't happen.
Do you think a 540 is going to be solid enough for the final round?
No, it's going to take a 30. You know, the car's got a 30 in it. We've had problems, just couldn't get it figured out, but we've got a handle on it now.
Can the track handle that much more, though?
Down track, yes. You know, they can handle it down here.
We'll see what happens, but welcome back to a final. It's been a while.
It's definitely too long.
Well, if the track will hold it at the big end, maybe what they need to do is take a close look at the gear ratios in that car. Nevertheless, we move on to our other matchup in the semifinals of Top Fuel. This is Michael Brotherton, and he'll have his hands full against Jack Ostrander.
Ostrander turned in a 5:33, the number Kerry was just talking about in the most previous round. Brotherton, on the other hand, only ran a 5:44. So if Kerry's right, Brotherton's got this race in the bag.
Big explosive burnout for Michael Brotherton. Now here comes Jack Ostrander.
The burnout very important as they try and heat those tires up and, more importantly, lay down a track of rubber to try and run in. However, today at this racetrack, that hasn't been the problem. They're getting off the line great. It's down about the 600-foot mark where they're having trouble.
And the track has been very fair. We've had winners in both lanes, virtually 50-50 all day long. Trick aerodynamic treatment at the front end of Jack Ostrander's car there. He rolls forward. To the right of your screen there are the lights. First the pre-staging light, then the staging lights. Good start. They're away, and more smoke very early this time. And Jack Ostrander will cruise through as Mike Brotherton went up in smoke.
Ostrander a 5:52 to take the victory. Watch, he's just off the line there, and the smoke starts just as he goes off that concrete pad about 200 feet out. We spoke too soon, Bob. Now the track's gone away in the starting line area.
And we will move on to finals, where John Carey will have lane choice over Jack Ostrander. Now it's time for semifinal action in Nitro Funny Cars. It'll be Chuck Etchells up against Doc Holliday.
Doc Holliday turned in a 5:85, not very impressive in the most previous round. Etchells, however, even less impressive with a 5:98. Both of these cars and drivers having trouble handling this tricky track. First it was good on the starting line and bad in the 8th, now it's reversed.
Escape hatches open as they back the cars up. They need to get air into these cars. That nitro-methane fuel mixture really makes your eyes water, and it's tough for those drivers to breathe unless they get some fresh air into those cars as they back up.
Chuck Etchells' Future Force car, powered by a KB engine and a Chevrolet Beretta. Doc Holliday, 488 cubic inches of KB power in a Dodge Daytona.
Keith Black, been building engines for drag races for a long time. Smoke now from Etchells' car, but he keeps his foot in it. It's a race. But with clean tires, Doc Holliday pulls it off.
You'll see why Doc Holliday won this. No smoke. Watch very closely. No smoke for Doc Holliday. Etchells, meanwhile, smoking all the way down. As we get to the 8th mile mark, they're nearly even. Coming up on the quarter-mile finish line, you'll see Holliday winning easily by about a car length.
The doctor said he was in after the first round. You just beat the most dominant car in IHRA racing, keeping Chuck Etchells from winning 3 straight. You're in a final. Welcome home.
Oh, it really feels great. I mean, the guys worked really hard, and here we are. What can we say?
577 is what I can tell you. Smooth as glass. He smoked the tires, and of course, you know Chuck. He wouldn't get out of it. 598 loser.
No, I know he was going to chase me. I could see him out there. It was a really good race for about 3/4 track, and I got ahead of him, and I said, I'm hanging on.
Well, these two guys have now had a look at that straight, clean run by Doc Holliday as they try to get into the finals alongside him. In the near lane, young Casey Spurlock. On the right lane, Mark Sievers.
Sievers turned in a 5:71 in the most previous round. Spurlock ran a 5:67.
They're away cleanly. Sievers gets out, but then he loses a little bit of traction, has to slow down and straighten it up, and young Spurlock pulls it off.
Spurlock into the finals with a 5:54.
Where he will have lane choice over Doc Holliday, another great mix of youth and experience. Coming up on ESPN this year, we're going to show you lots of this kind of action as we bring you drag racing motorcycles. This is Mike Malone from Phoenix, Arizona. Look for him later this year here on ESPN.